Was that supposed to threaten me? Feral? I've seen entire species destroyed, civilizations left in ruins. I've witnessed solar systems vanquish in a twinkle of an eye. I've seen things that would freeze your blood. So don't threaten me. Don't ever threaten me. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Phobos, written by Eddie Robinson. This is the 5th release in the 8th Doctor adventures. Well, technically it's the 4th story, because Blood of the Daleks was in 2 parts, released as 2 separate discs. Now, this story doesn't have a lot going on behind the scenes, and it's a very unpopular story. A lot of people seem to dismay it and dislike it, considering it to be one of Paul McGann's worst audio dramas. Not that like he's bad in it, he's fantastic in it, but in terms of the writing, the story of it, they consider it one of the weakest, or at least in the 8th Doctor adventures with Lucy Miller. This is also, in terms of production, was Sheridan Smith's 2nd story that she ever recorded. She went from Blood of the Daleks, straight onto this story. I don't really know if that changes anything. She does get a lot to do in this story. Or at least she does go on a little side quest, which is actually a big point in the story for a part of it. So, yeah, there's really not really much to talk about this in terms of setting it up for the rest of the video. Timothy West's in it. He's a pretty fine actor. Yeah, so there you go. In terms of the story, it feels like, to me anyway, I don't know if anyone else got this impression, it feels like the 8th Doctor's equivalent of Dragonfire. If that makes a lot of sense, I might just be connecting to it because it's in a snowy area where there's like a massive tourist attraction thing, and it's got that kind of cheese about it. It's a very cheesy story, which would have fit right into the 7th Doctor era, but it's an 8th Doctor story, which kind of gives it a much more melancholy feeling. I don't even know what I'm on about anymore. I'm completely baffled about lack of things to say about this story. So yeah, so that's the official Big Finish DVD cover. Sorry, Big Finish CD cover, which it's pretty generic. You've got the couple in the background. You've got this creature's hand, and you've got a I can't remember the call them now. They're like the adrenaline junkies on Phobos. And like always, I print out my own DVD cover. This is one I've stolen off a DeviantArt account, with the only real difference is that I've put the logo on there of the original TV movie DVD cover, so it fits better on my cover. The cover's really generic. I should really make my own cover for this one. I might redo it. But here's the spine, which looks really nice for there. If anyone is interested, that's my catchphrase at this little segment by the sounds of it. And here's the back, which kind of gives it away that it's not one of mine. So there you go. So, one bit I'm actually dreading to say, but let's go on to the story. So, the start of the story actually has the Doctor and Lucy have the TARDIS arrive on top of a mountain cliff. Sound a bit familiar? Because that's the exact same way Immortal Beloved, the last story, which I just want to put on the record. I absolutely love that story. Go watch my video on it, and do, please, if you haven't listened to it, try out Immortal Beloved. yourself and give it your own opinion. But this purposes of this video, that story also starts off with the Doctor and Lucy landing the TARDIS on top of a mountain cliff. Again, I have no idea what really that relevance that is, but it's an interesting little thing that keeps happening. I don't know. And the story is really set off into two segments. Act 1 and Act 2, shall we say. As Act 1, we see Lucy get captured by this like net thing, and when the Doctor tries to help her out, these two boys, they come out and help Lucy out. And they basically explain that they've been setting these traps here because this old guy, I believe his name is Cal, Kaya, I can't remember the guy, Timothy West's character. He's basically said that there are monsters on Phobos, and that they're on the Phobos, which is like a resort. It's a moon on Mars. It's one of the moons on Mars, and basically there's a dome on Phobos which allows people to go to there and witness all of these natural phenomenons. And originally it was like a nice little holiday resort. However, it's been basically overrun by people coming here for adrenaline rush, as there's people who climb really high mountains. There's all of these dangerous tasks. One of them, which actually takes the Doctor's interest, is this hole, which it's not really described very well, if I'm going to be honest. But it's like you fall into it, and because of some weird gravitational phenomenon, you can't actually touch the sides. And these two boys who they basically plan to jump down with a wire and then fling back up. And the Doctor is fascinated by this. But when they get there, Lucy discovers that there is a girl near a body. And really, Act 1 is really mainly setting up a bunch of characters. Of course, we have Lucy and the Doctor being our main protagonists. We also have these two boys. We also have this couple, this woman and a boyfriend, a husband, which is this weird alien thing. They give him a voice modulator so he sounds like this. And basically there's some sort of like prejudice against him. And this couple is actually, they're actually fugitives because from his species, his people, they actually banned marriages from other races. So he's basically on the run from his own people in a sense. We also get to meet up with another couple who are not really, I don't know if there's a bit of a dialogue between them. Timothy West's character and his girlfriend, who's actually played by the girl who plays Todd in Kinder. Really great little casting nod there. Kai, I'm just going to call him Kai, I'm pretty sure that's not his name. But Kai, he's basically been telling people for years about horrible things that happen on Phobos, these creatures that go around killing people, but nobody seems to take him seriously. In fact, his partner doesn't even believe him. Apparently he changes the story over and again, and he never is consistent. And she says that like she believes why he does this is to scare off these tourists, but why he couldn't tell her about his real intentions, she just doesn't understand. And we get all of these characters and all of these plot threads, and it's just way too much. It's just way too much. And in terms of character, maybe not lost sense of the plot seems pretty fine-paced at this point. But in terms of character, all of these little plot lines are a little too under thread for a 60-minute episode, and it really feels like this should have been in the traditional 4-part story length, but it's been condensed into this, and because of that, these characters don't flesh out. For example, there's a whole thing between the couple who is the woman, the human woman, and the alien husband, and they have this argument and debating and stuff, and we kind of get this feeling that there's some sort of prejudice against these creatures, that they're some sort of savages, and Kai comes up to him at one point after he storms off out of a cafe, and is like, I just want to let you know, don't take any notices of them. And when he's like, I have no idea what you're on about, Kai's like, oh, sorry, I thought you heard the others talk about you and your people, and that's why you got upset. But if that's not the case, don't worry about me. Now, it seems like there's a great, interesting character there. A character who's been suffering from prejudice, and you could do a lot with that. But the problem is that this is only a segment. I would like to stress a segment of the first half of the story. We see a scene in which this character beats up another character after he makes a slight little comment. Nothing like too prejudiced, just like a little bit of banter, to which this character takes it the wrong way and basically beats him up for it. And when he storms off, Kai actually goes up to the person he had beaten and is like, those species, they're just like savages, wouldn't you say? So basically Kai is the villain, is one of the villains here, as he's manipulating everyone. I just realised that is a spoiler. That is a pretty bad of me that I didn't mention spoiler, so sorry about that. But I don't think a lot of people care about the story. It's a very unpopular story. And whilst this is all going on, basically the doctor's trying to investigate all these going on, and Lucy actually befriends the woman who is the partner of the alien. So, and she sees that she's upset, and that, and she kind of, I think there was like a bit where she helped her with the woman and the dead guy, the dead person on the floor. So Lucy befriends her, and actually they have like their own little adventure where they put on spacesuits and actually go out onto the atmosphere for a little bit, and they come back, where then they find one of these creatures that Kai was talking about, and the doctor quickly rushes up to rush in. These bear-like creatures start attacking people, killing a few people, and the doctor notices something, and when he destroys the creature, it reveals that it's not a creature, it's a robot, and the doctor gets pretty suspicious, pretty convinced on who it is, that it's Kai, to try and run out all of the tourist sections. So segment one of the story is the doctor basically discovering that these monsters are not really monsters, and that it's Kai behind this all along. Segment two then takes an entire 180, and here's where the story gets a little bit more interesting, but because it's half of a 60-minute story, there's only around about 30 minutes of this plot line that could be said upon. It really is rushed. Essentially, it's revealed that Kai has been doing this because he has learned that in the core of Phobos, the moon itself, is actually a deity from another dimension, a fear god that feeds off, well, I want to say it feeds off fear, but there is just, they explain it in this massive dump of information, and honestly, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So apparently, it feeds off fear, but not any sort of fear. Fear that people enjoy. True fear, fear in which people really don't want to be in the situation. Fear is actually poisonous to it. And essentially, because of all of these adrenaline junkies, I mean, it's in the name, adrenaline junkies, they want to be feared, they want to be scared, they want to feel the blood rushing through their bodies. They actually feed the creature immensely. And it's around here that the Doctor's personality actually gets a little bit dark. It's here where he does that speech, which I did at the start of the video. And you can kind of feel that something is off. And Kai basically explains that the Doctor is the biggest food source for this creature out there. Essentially, Kai has been creating these robots in a win-win situation for him. Either people get scared of the beast and it poisons the godlike entity, or they don't believe him and there is no fear for the creature to feed off. So yeah, that's something. And it turns out as well, because the Doctor is basically a massive adrenaline junkie, he goes around actively going around saving planets, fighting monsters, doing fighting the good fight, like heads on. This has allowed the creature to have a massive power source to the point where he can actually feed off Kai's partner, which actually leads into one of the best elements of this story, and I think what actually makes it better than I think a lot of people give it off to be, even though it's still a really, there are some criticisms you can take with this scene, but it's still pretty cool nonetheless. The ending, in which the Doctor grabs this girlfriend character and him and the girl jump off into the pit, getting closer to the creature, to the entity, so that they are in a situation where basically the Doctor's memories, the Doctor's emotions are rampant, and the Doctor basically is like, so you want to feed my fears? I've basically experienced all of these horrible things from the past. And this creature's like, no, what are you doing? Please, Doctor, anything but this, please, no. And the Doctor gives us this massive speech. It's like, it reminds me a lot of the Rings of Akaten, where the Doctor is basically giving off all of his emotions in the dire hope that just the fact that he's sharing his pain and his miseries will be some way to feed the creature to the point where it can't feed anymore. And it's just a fantastic moment, mainly not for its place in the story, as it seems really abrupt. I also feel like this scene would have worked a lot better if it was visualized. The Doctor mentions how he has fought fear demons from the dawn of time, all these horrible things from the dawn of time. But it feels like when he says that, we should have had a visual representation. It's where the audio drama format suffers in this case. But we get that, and I think what really nails it is the performance. This is probably Paul McGann at his best in the Eighth Doctor Adventures with Lucy Miller. That one scene, he's just so powerful, he's just so immense, and the speech, Eddie Robson's dialogue really stands out as the Doctor is like, but you don't understand, I'm a time traveller. I don't only just know about fears from the past, but I also know fears of the future. Would you like to see them? And this creature basically goes berserk. It's like, no, please, anything, stop it, stop it. And then the Doctor's like, but what about my own personal fears? Fears which I dread will happen eventually. Things which I would absolutely hate to happen in real life. What about then? And that just builds up and builds up and builds up, and that's just a really powerful scene. I also love, which is another reason why I think this scene is so good, the music is what I imagine Paul McGann's era would be. It's got like this this epicness, this cinematic quality with the chanting and the just that's the bottom track. Big Finish. I don't know if you have, but if you haven't, release that as a track on its own. I would love to own that piece of music. It's absolutely brilliant. I'd like to imagine when the Doctor's talking about his fears yet to come, the Valiard is one of them. I'd like to imagine that. And I like to imagine that when the Doctor mentions his fears from the dawn of time, Fendrick is on there, and maybe the Fendal, maybe Ravenous. Could be. And all of these, and Daleks and Cybermen and Sontarans, all of these fan favourites. And so the Doctor survives and escapes, but sadly, because the god creature was inside the body of Kai's girlfriend, she passes away. And the story ends, narratively wise, with Kai, the Doctor, and Lucy doing like a funeral where they like burn the body for this character. But just before the credits roll, we actually get a scene in which the two adrenaline junkies they interact with this woman that they found, the head hunter, who is still looking for Lucy, and apparently she got stuck in a situation, so she actually got here days early waiting for Lucy, and then when she arrived she was stuck, and the story actually ends like the cliffhanger with the head huntress basically proclaiming, I will get her. Next time I'm gonna definitely get Lucy Miller. And that's the credits. And that's Phobos. Overall, it's alright. I mean, the story itself is pretty well paced. It goes along at a nice pace. The two storylines, at the beginning and at the end, keep the story interesting enough that it's listenable, but the characters feel really weak. There's not a lot really going on in terms of anything really. There's too many characters in such a little time for them all to be highly developed. I mean, I know not every character can be highly developed. You need some like background characters, but it feels like characters here that should have a bigger plot really feel more underlined than they probably were intended. But I don't think you can just write this off. There's some pretty good scenes, especially with Paul McGann getting a little bit more angrier at the end of it. And that ending, in my opinion, is worth it. But that's just me. And I don't think the story as the whole is one that I could recommend. I feel like only a select few people only buy it for completion sakes. Like this idiot here. So there you go, that's Phobos. So join me next time when the Doctor and Lucy get caught up in someone's wedding and things don't seem right as they keep noticing things repeating. So join me next time for no more lies, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra.